Refeed versus cheat day. In this video, we're going to be going over the differences between a refeed day and a cheat day, why one is more effective than the other, and when you should incorporate, how often you should incorporate a refeed or a cheat day into your regimen when it comes to losing body fat. So first things first, let's talk about the differences between a cheat day and a refeed day, okay? A lot of people get this mixed up. A lot of people ultimately get this wrong because they think a refeed day is a cheat day and vice versa, right? There are drastic differences between the two that you need to be aware of. So first thing, let's talk about cheat days. What's a cheat day? Pretty basic. Most people understand the concept of a cheat day or what it is. It's basically eating whatever you want for that whole day, right? Pizza, burgers, cake, chocolate, candy, pasta, whatever your favorite foods are. Typically people will wait all week for this cheat day and basically indulge in whatever foods that they crave the most that week, right? Pretty easy, pretty basic concept. However, on the other side, we have a refeed day, okay? The biggest difference between a cheat day and a refeed day is that a refeed day is a much more structured approach to break a plateau during a fat loss by eating back at calorie maintenance or even a calorie surplus, right? That refeeding day, okay? So there are drastic differences. Cheat day is basically all you can eat, whatever foods that you want. Refeed day is a structured approach, eating at a certain calorie amount and only increasing your carbohydrate intake that day. So for example, increasing the carbs that you're already eating throughout that diet, your rice, your quinoa, pasta, oatmeal, whatever kind of carb sources you're eating throughout the diet, you're basically doubling it on a refeed day. Okay, and next we'll touch on why a refeed day is so much more effective than just simply all out eating whatever you want. So before we get into why refeed days are more effective than cheat days, we first have to know, why are you even doing a refeed or a cheat day in the first place? Like, what are the benefits and why are people doing it, okay? So typically when you enter a fat loss phase, the deeper you get into the cut, obviously the more hungry you're gonna get, okay? If you're consistently in a calorie deficit for an extended period of time, you have a few hormones that are important to know about during a fat loss phase, right? There's two that I'm going to talk about in this video specifically, and those being ghrelin and leptin, okay? The deeper you get into a cut, the more body fat you lose, the more consistent you are in a calorie deficit, the lower your leptin levels will drop, okay? This is important because as your leptin levels drop, it's connected to your metabolism. So you're not gonna be expending as much energy. Your metabolism is gonna be a lot lower because your leptin levels are lower. So think of leptin as your metabolism, okay? As you lose body fat, your leptin levels go down and your energy expenditure decreases, making it much tougher to be in a calorie deficit needed in order to lose weight, okay? As leptin goes down, ghrelin goes up. Ghrelin is the hunger hormone, okay? The higher your ghrelin levels, the hungrier you're gonna be, okay? This is why after several weeks or even months of being in a calorie deficit, losing weight, you become so ravenous, you become so hungry, you just wanna eat everything in sight, okay? Your leptin's low, your ghrelin's high, and it's just a recipe for potential disaster, okay? So these are two important hormones to know about. Again, leptin is connected to your energy output, your metabolism, and ghrelin is the hunger hormone. The higher the ghrelin, the hungrier you're gonna be, okay? So now that we have that out of the way, why people do refeed days is to kind of reset these hormones to help them break plateaus. Typically, you would do a refeed day, we'll touch on in a bit how often, but when you kind of plateau in your weight loss journey, because again, you're not in a calorie deficit, your metabolism is low, your energy output's low, and so a refeed day can help fill your glycogen stores, again, via carbs, and kind of reset those hormones to kind of break that plateau, okay? When you have a refeed day in particular, as we'll touch on in just a sec, that really spikes your leptin levels, again, allowing you to increase your energy output, increase your metabolism, so it's easier to get in that calorie deficit, again, needed in order to break that plateau and continue your fat loss journey, okay? So now that we have that out of the way, the reason why refeed days are so much more effective than cheat days, because first off, with cheat days, you have no control, okay? With refeed days, or with cheat days, I should say, when people do a cheat day, they have, again, no control, and they're oftentimes they're eating such an extreme calorie surplus that it's like way out of the range of what is effective for resetting those hormones, okay? The whole goal is to kind of get you back on track, break a plateau, and kind of reset your hormones so that it's easier to continue that fat loss journey for the next week or 2 weeks, whatever it is. With a cheat day, you have very little control. There's no way in hell, let's say you order a box of pizza, there's no chance you're only eating 2-3 slices, right? You're eating the whole damn box. At this point, you're starving, and you basically can eat like a crazy amount of food. So with cheat days, oftentimes when people do these, they're at such an extreme calorie surplus, they're eating so many more calories over their maintenance that it can actually drag them back because they put on easily a few extra pounds, water weight, fat, that will take them a lot longer to get back to their weight before that cheat day. So again, I would not recommend doing a cheat day. It's very hard to control yourself. As soon as you have that first donut or pizza, trust me, you want more, and you will not just have one, you're gonna have the whole thing. So it is very hard to control. And you're just going to you're way overshoot it to a point where it's going to be difficult to get back to where you were prior to that cheat day. With refeed days, on the other hand, refeed days are awesome because, again, you're only manipulating the carbohydrates, right? You're not really moving the proteins and fats. You're doubling the carbs that you're taking from that day. So let's say you have 200 carbs per day on your regular fat loss diet. For that one day, you're gonna increase that to 400 to 500 grams of carbs, again, for that one day. What this does is it really raises your leptin levels, again, that hormone that's connected to your metabolism, your energy output, and it will obviously decrease your ghrelin levels, making it easier to adhere to the diet longer term, okay? So the reason why I say double your carbs is because leptin responds best to carbohydrates and not fats and not proteins that you would get from pizza and all these other foods, right? Usually these cheat day foods are a mixture of fats and carbs, which is why they taste so good, because they're usually, when carbs and fats are together, it tastes amazing, but it's not going to be nearly as effective because a lot of these foods are so high in fat, and again, we need primarily carbs. We want clean, whole, single ingredient source carbs, such as rice, potatoes, sweet potato, pasta, even oatmeal. These are all great sources of carbohydrates to really kickstart and raise your leptin levels, again, to make it easier to adhere to your diets a longer term. So that is why refeed days are more effective than cheat days. Again, cheat days, you have basically very little control, and it's very, very easy, trust me, once you get exposed to these foods like pizza and donuts, to way overshoot your calories, versus a refeed day, much more structured approach, and will actually help you break any plateaus that you eventually come across. It is inevitable to come across plateaus. So again, having these refeed days every so often will help you break those plateaus and continue losing fat longer term. So now let's talk about what the calories and macros look like on a refeed day, right? We've established that refeed days are more effective than cheat days, so I would always recommend doing a refeed day when you've plateaued in your fat loss journey for several days in a row. But the calories and macros on a refeed day, what do they look like, and how is it different than your normal diet and when you're in a fat loss journey? So with calories, I would aim to go right back up to maintenance calories. So let's say you typically eat 2,500 calories a day to maintain your weight. If you eat that, you're not gonna gain weight or lose weight, okay? So let's say that's your maintenance calories, and you're eating at 2,000 calories in your diet. Again, aim for that 500 calorie deficit to lose about a pound a week, right? So let's say you're eating at 2,000 calories, then I will go right back up to maintenance, 25, even slightly above is fine. Anywhere between 25 and 3,000 really is fine during that one refeed day. And again, filling all those 500 to 1,000 calories with carbs, 100, 200, 300 excess grams of carbs that day, okay? So that's what the calories look like. Either going right back up to maintenance or even a slight calorie surplus is totally okay for when you're having a refeed day. When it comes to macros, again, protein stays more or less the same. Fats you can actually reduce a little bit. You don't need as much fat that day because, again, your calories are going to be going back up to maintenance. And again, carbs is the main thing that's going to change on a refeed day versus your regular diet. Again, so if you're having 200 grams of carbs a day, I would double that instantly, go to 400 or even 500, depending on how depleted you are. Okay, so That's really the only thing that changes is the carbohydrates and the calories. Calories go back to up to maintenance or a slight calorie surplus, and carbs at least 2x, even up to 2.5x of what you're eating on your regular diet. And the final thing I want to go over in this video is my food recommendations for when you are doing a refeed day, right? What are the best carbohydrate sources to have when refeeding and doubling up your carbohydrates and going back up to maintenance calories, okay? So in my answer is really any carbohydrate source that it's a clean, complex carb source. You want to try your best to avoid sugar or junk food, because again, a lot of these junk or cheap foods have a lot of fat attached to them as well, which you kind of want to avoid. You want to have as much carbs that day as possible and really fill that calorie gap with as much carbs as you can. So any whole complex carb source will do the trick. Again, leptin responds best to carbs, so try your best to aim for whole complex carb sources such as white rice, brown rice, quinoa, sweet potato, white potato, oatmeal, cereals. These are all great complex carb sources that will help really raise that leptin level to help you break that plateau. So obviously with cheat days, you can eat pretty much whatever you want, but with refeed days, really aiming to have complex carb sources to get your hormones back to baseline and help you break those plateaus. So that rounds off the video. One last thing I want to quickly mention is during a refeed day, it's okay to have a cheat meal, okay? I often advise my clients to have at least one cheat meal during that day, because again, that helps a lot with mental well-being and kind of taking a break and kind of letting that release out, right? So if you're someone that's always super strict on your diet, it's harder to maintain and adhere to that diet, because eventually you just need a release. You need something like a cheat food to kind of help you just from a mental standpoint. So I would advise, again, on a refeed day, it's primarily just aiming to double your carbohydrates, but maybe for dinner, it's okay to have pasta or pizza or whatever you want just for one meal. Again, the key here is one meal and not the whole day, okay? So refeed day, it's okay to have maybe one cheat meal that day just from a mental standpoint to help you kind of, again, get that release and help you kind of overcome those cravings that you eventually will develop during a longer course on fat loss phase. So that rounds off this video. Hope you enjoyed it, the differences between a cheat meal and a refeed day, and I hope you pick the right one when it comes to the next time you need to raise your calories and carbs for when you hit a plateau. So hope you enjoyed it, and we'll see you here in the next one.